We saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we processed that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime. We know she didn't just walk out of there. She did not leave on her own. Nancy Guthrie is of great sound mind. This is not a dementia related. She is as sharp as a tack, and we're asking the community's help.
Cleared. The Guthrie family cleared as suspects, but so many questions still left unanswered. Plus another day and another purported ransom note. A fourth letter sent to TMZ. So what's happening? Is this all a ruse? We'll talk about it. Also, we've got a twist in an alleged murder for hire plot. The man who pleaded guilty to killing Microsoft executive Jared Bridegan now wants to withdraw his guilty plea. And brand new this hour, some surveillance footage of alleged school shooter Colin Gray holding a rifle. It's the same rifle that his dad allegedly gave him for Christmas. We'll talk about how that might tip the scales of justice in his dad's trial. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you, my friends. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? Let's get all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. We'll kick it off as we always do. Grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. It's like playing Russian roulette. Giving your child a deadly weapon when you know he is mentally unstable is like Russian roulette. At some point, something deadly will happen. My friends, I got to tell you, I was nauseated at what I learned on opening day in the Gave My Son a Gun trial in Georgia. The allegations are that father Colin Gray knew that his son Colin Gray was not only having mental health difficulties and exhibiting violent behavior, but that the troubled teenager had also made threats about a school shooting before. It was investigated, no further action was taken by law enforcement, but the father, Colin, allegedly thought it was a good idea to put a rifle in his kid's hands. Did he think something good was going to happen? Prosecutor noted that even after this little monster constructs a shrine to that other monster, Nicholas Cruz, he still let the kid keep the rifle in his bedroom. The prosecutor told us that both of those parents knew that their son was disturbed. They were even taking it upon themselves to medicate him. They were medicating him. Makes me sick that those 4 beautiful lives were lost, 9 other people were hurt, and the whole entire school community traumatized by what should have been prevented. I say good for those prosecutors in bringing this case. That family should have been on notice, especially after we saw the Crumbly parents and how they were prosecuted for the same thing. Poor mental health and firearms do not mix. That's my opening statement. As you can see, I'm pretty fired up about this case. We'll be talking more about it this morning. Right now, let me get you your daily docket.
I sent the email, and I guess immediately, Miss Martin came back on intercom and said he's at your door. And at that point, I'm walking towards my door, and I said yes. I got to my door, and I saw that it was him, and that he had a gun.
The case I was just talking about, testimony resuming in our next hour in the trial of Colin Gray. We're also monitoring another high-profile case in Georgia. Jury deliberations resuming this morning in the murder trial of UGA law student Tara Baker's death. It was a cold case. Prosecution just brought against defendant Edric Faust. We'll let you know if we have a verdict. And in Michigan, we've got the state's case continuing in the trial of defendant Dale Warner. Court's going to get underway at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Right now, let's turn to your top story. After weeks of speculation, the Guthrie family is officially cleared as suspects.
We are ready to talk. Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
We want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly.
This is very valuable to us, and we will pay. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. We are at an hour of desperation. We still have hope, and we still believe, and it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here.
How heartbreaking. The Pima County Sheriff said in a statement, quote, "To be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I'm begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism," end quote. So let's talk about where this investigation goes next. And what about the move to announce that the family is clear? Let's tackle these things. Let's bring in our law enforcement analyst guests. This hour, I have retired NYPD Detective Tom Smith and retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindeffer. Good morning to you both. Jen, I'll start with you. Let's start with the announcement that the sheriff made about the family. Your thoughts on making that announcement at this time? Do you think it was appropriate?
Well, first of all, I think it was not only appropriate, but important. Social media speculation was running rampant, and we don't even know what was happening to members of that family behind the scenes in terms of emails they might have been receiving, threats, mail. It was getting really ugly, and I actually think it was just overdue, but perhaps they just didn't have the evidence to clear. We saw this in the Idaho 4 case. It made so much sense. Every week they came out and they issued a clear statement on the individuals so they would not be further harassed. I am glad to see they finally came forward and did this.
Yes. And a follow-up for you, Jen, please, with your past work experience. We noticed this is coming from the sheriff, this announcement, not the FBI. Would you tell all of our viewers, please, does the FBI ever talk and make announcements about who's cleared, who's someone they like as a suspect in any investigation?
No, they're not going to do that. They're going to stay quiet behind the scenes, but you can bet that they concurred with the sheriff making this announcement, this written announcement. You see some of his verbal announcements, I'm sure they shudder at because he tends to be all over the board, just like we saw with the Idaho case too. These are not professional spokespeople. They misstep all the time. I love to see these written announcements.
Yes, yes, Jen. I want to talk about where the investigation goes next. I have a clip for you both. This is the sheriff talking about DNA being submitted to a crime lab. Here we go.
We've submitted all our evidence, and we have got back results with DNA. That's all I can speak to.
Yeah, and you're then gonna run,
Absolutely.
off of that.
Absolutely.
Off of that.
If we get a suspect, we hope to get a swab and validate it with the DNA.
Okay, Tom Smith, talk to us here, please. Where does this case go next?
Yeah, I think they're on the right track with the DNA. That's going to be the most viable lead right now. And make no mistake about it, there's other things going on behind the scenes, as Jen mentioned, and Jen knows very well. This is not just all hands on deck looking at one aspect of this case. There are numerous detectives and agents doing other leads while they're waiting for the DNA to come back. But right now, that is the biggest thing they have going, and hopefully there's a break in it or a match or the genealogy is done to lead them to someone down the road that can break this case.
Yes, yes, Tom. Let's dig in more on the DNA developments. So the FBI saying that DNA was recovered from the glove that was found near Nancy Guthrie's home. That DNA, they say, is from an unknown male, and now the FBI is testing that DNA. The glove appears very similar to those worn by the suspect seen on that terrifying doorbell camera video. And the sheriff says, as you heard, him touching a little bit with our affiliate on the DNA sent to the lab. He also says that DNA found in the home confirms that it does not belong to Nancy Guthrie or her close contacts, people who would be in the home and whose DNA you would expect to find there. So some foreign DNA, so to speak. Jen Coffindeffer, let me go to you, please. In terms of the crime scene processing, I've heard a lot of people questioning whether this was done properly, whether we have a tainted crime scene, being that things were released so quickly. I would love your thoughts on whether you think that what was done is still salvageable and could really lead to the suspect or suspects.
You know, I always hate to be critical of these investigators and what they have done, but let's just look at the facts here. There were 4 crime scene searches. There was one by Pima County early, then the FBI about 3 days later did theirs. Then the FBI came back and realized they missed that camera. They also wanted to process her vehicle, and then they came back again and did the septic tank. I just have to say, in 28 years of law enforcement, that's pretty much unheard of, to go back over and over and over again and have that crime scene released. If it hadn't have been released, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But that doesn't mean that that original take of that DNA in there that doesn't match anybody can't really help solve this crime.
That's really helpful, Jen. So both can be true. It can be true that, you know, they should have done things a little better, and that we can still get a viable match here that could hold up in a court of law. Detective Smith, your thoughts. I saw you nodding along as Jen was talking. Your thoughts on the securing the scene and where we think they might go today. Tell us, please.
Yeah, securing the scene, I didn't like how they did it because there's no reason to open that scene up. No one's living there. There's no back and forth to there, so there's no reason to not secure that area until this case is done. Because what you're doing, other than tainting and possibly screwing up the evidence that you're getting, you're setting up a defense down the line if you ever lock somebody up. You know, they're gonna go right after the way the crime scene was processed and the in and out of everyone over 2 weeks of going back and forth. You know, they're going to have a tough time, you know, putting the genie back in the bottle, so to speak, when, you know, when and if they do lock someone up and this goes to a trial with the way the crime scene was handled.
Right, Tom. You know, I want to bring up something else I've been thinking about, this intrusion in the middle of the night. It's like something out of a nightmare. And I think, you know, for many people, kidnapping has always been a fear. And this case has perhaps reignited some of those fears that we all have. Jen, I haven't seen any information released on this, and maybe that's deliberate, but I can't imagine why this beautiful big home with this lovely, beautiful elderly woman living in it didn't have an alarm system. And I keep thinking about that. Was there not one in place? Was there not an alarm set? Or did somebody, you know, in her world who may have somehow come into contact with her or surveilled her, even got a code? I'm curious your thoughts on that. I'm sure as you've been looking at all the facts of this, I'm sure this has maybe come up in some of your thoughts and analysis. What do you think, Jen?
Well, Julie, such a great point. I mean, just that she didn't have a subscription. And the reason a subscription is important is it cost a lot of time in this case. I think it was around day 11 that we finally had that surveillance video. Just think if we could have had it on day 1. So, you know, having a subscription, having an alarm, and then also I just want to point out that front door, from my view and looking at it over and over, was not breached forcefully. It looks like it just wasn't. So was there really forced entry, or was it done from the back view and we just haven't seen those photos?
Another great point. You both have such great insights. We have more questions for you. Jennifer Coffindeffer, Tom Smith, stand by, please. When we come back, we're talking about a 4th ransom letter sent to TMZ. Is this helping or hurting the case? Plus,
Henry Tenon pled guilty to murdering Jared Bridegan. Henry Tenon has admitted that he, in fact, was the shooter.
Get this, a confessed hitman changes course. Defendant Henry Tenon now wants to withdraw his guilty plea and not testify against his co-defendants in the murder that took the life of Microsoft executive Jared Bridegan. We'll break it down for you this morning here on Opening Statements. a deadly school shooting.
I just started hearing gunshots.
Now, the father of the alleged shooter is on trial.
Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son to possess a weapon.
The Gave My Son a Gun murder trial, today on Court TV.
Lori has paraded around portraying herself as widow and victim while trying to profit from a book about his death. I never knew evil like this existed.
The Grief Author murder trial. Live coverage begins Monday morning, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
We still have hope. And we still believe. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here.
So heartbreaking. Well, Savannah Guthrie is hoping and pleading for her mom's safe return. TMZ is receiving yet another purported ransom note demanding a payout. It was sent to TMZ on Monday, and here's Harvey Levin reading a portion of it.
I should tell everybody that in this letter, it says, I know what I saw 5 days ago south of the border, and I was told to shut up, so I know who he is, and that was definitely Nancy with them. This is the second time he has referred to more than one person involved in this. He said there is a main person and there are others, and he said it here.
So where the investigation stands now, here's some key developments. So on February 10th, video was released of a masked man on the porch of Nancy Guthrie's home. February 13th, a random impersonator went to court, 42-year-old Derek Kalela, charged with sending a fake ransom note. He reportedly confessed to FBI agents once they got him. February 15th, there was a glove found that appears to match the gloves worn by the suspect in those surveillance images. And on February 16th, after receiving a third note days later, TMZ got that fourth note we just told you about from someone saying they have information on the kidnapping and indicating more than one kidnapper. So what can we believe here? Are these notes a ruse just by some imposters looking to get money? Are they a ruse by someone who actually has Nancy Guthrie? Are they being done to throw the investigation off course? Let's bring back in retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer and retired NYPD Detective Tom Smith. Tom, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, that's a great question, because each note that comes in is a little bit more when it comes to this investigation. What I would like to see done is, you know what, start tracking him down. Start setting something up that brings him in, because now he's putting himself out as just not someone who just has information. Now he's putting out that he's a witness. So I think that it somewhat has to be a viable lead. I still am not 100% on these ransom notes. I'm really not at all. But when you start getting into detailed information, it's a little bit more, and I would like, let's track him down. Let's find him. Let's try to get a hand on him to see what else is going on when it's, with that information he's given out.
Right. Great points, Tom. Jen, I would love your thoughts on these purported ransom notes.
Well, first of all, I agree with Tom 100%. This needs to be the full court press on identifying who this individual is. It's so difficult because they keep coming in via this email through this portal where you can give tips. So there's sort of this intermediary that's in the way, but I think it'll be cracked. I think the FBI and their experts and perhaps contract experts will even come in and get that part cracked. But I think these are crackpots out there that are strictly doing this for media attention. Recall, they never went to the family. They waited 3 days to do this. They specifically went to the media after law enforcement was crawling all over this case. Then when they weren't getting enough play with the two local outlets, they decided, well, let's go to TMZ that has millions of followers, and knowing that they would likely go forward with this story, which happened. And now they just keep playing. I feel like I'm literally watching some sort of game play out, and it's really pathetic.
It really is. Sharp analysis, Jen. And to that point, Tom, It makes me question the motivation behind this. Is this about torturing the Guthrie family? Is this not so much about money, but about just inflicting pain on them? What do you think?
Yeah, and going on Jen's point, you know, if it's just a crockpot that is just into this and wants some publicity out of it, or just, you know, playing with the family, that person, if they do track him down, needs to go to jail, first of all, because it's a crime to do what he's doing. So it's heartbreaking that in this day in technology, they're able to do things like this. You know, back years ago when there were kidnapping cases, the person got grabbed, you had a note, there was a ransom, you dropped it, and you hopefully got them back. It was pretty simple, or a phone call. Nowadays, with encryptions and internets and all this, it makes it very difficult to kind of separate the crazies from legitimacy. And I think that's what they're going through here. But Jen and I are on the same page with, I don't really believe this, but with the new information, it's a little bit more to try to maybe dedicate a small team to go after them.
Mm-hmm. Right, Tom. Yeah, and that raises a great point. How much time should be devoted to this, right? So, Jen, if you'll tackle that question, please. If you're, you know, back serving with the FBI, and this is your case right now, and you believe this is nonsense, but yet if there's a teeny bit of hope that this could lead to something, as Tom said, devoting a small team, tell us how the FBI might be dealing with this and investigating it.
Well, right now there's 100 at least dedicated agents, and that is a huge number considering there's only about 10 to 13,000 agents in the country at any one time, I should say, in and outside of the country. But there is a cadre, about triple that amount of analysts and support staff behind the scenes. So I would definitely have this square in the lap of a cyber squad, and I would have them working this, tracking down leads, and like I said, maybe even going to outside help to provide additional resources going toward this. This has to be figured out who did this. This is a 20-year hit, by the way. It's not a small-time deal what this extortionist has done. And so no matter what they're doing is illegal, and God forbid any of that information is true, and they have Nancy, they'd be culpable in that. So they need to run it to ground.
You're so right. Boy, we love having you both on this program. Such excellent analysis. Jennifer Coffindaffer, Tom Smith, thank you both so much for the conversation. We'll continue following every major development in the search for Nancy Guthrie. In the meantime, we have to hit a break here on opening statements. Still to come, he admitted to pulling the trigger, but now he wants to go to trial. What's behind Hitman Henry Tenon's stunning reversal of course in the Microsoft executive murder for hire plot? Plus, chilling moments caught on surveillance footage of alleged school shooter Colin Gray with his rifle. Look at that, carrying it on the bus. We'll talk about how these videos could tip the scales of justice against his father.
This was a planned and targeted ambush and murder. The ruthless homicide has pained our community.
Welcome back. In our spotlight, the man who pleaded guilty to killing Microsoft executive Jared Bridegan says, never mind, and that he wants to go to trial. Henry Tenon pleaded guilty to Bridegan's murder back in 2023. Bridegan stopped his car because of a flat tire. Because of a tire, rather, that was in the roadway. When he got out, he was ambushed, shot, and killed. His 2-year-old daughter was in the back seat. Now, Henry Tenon agreed to testify against his co-defendants, Mario Fernandez Saldana and Shanna Gardner, who is Bridegan's ex. Now, both of them are accused of orchestrating this hit. Here's Tenon when he was arrested during a traffic stop.
Give the dog to my partner real quick. Hold on. I'm gonna put these on you. These are a lot more comfortable.
Will you come take the dog?
Now, Henry Tenon's 3-page motion asking to withdraw his guilty plea says that he no longer wishes to testify against the estranged couple and wants to proceed to trial. A judge is going to be hearing arguments on this motion this morning. So what in the world could have happened to change this guy's mind? And what's the judge going to do? Is the judge going to allow him to withdraw that guilty plea? Let's break it all down. Let's bring in our legal eagles with me this morning, attorneys Dave Ehrenberg and Ben Chu. Good morning to you both. Dave, I'll start with you. In Florida, tell me, can he do this? Must the judge allow this? Go into professor mode for us, if you would kindly, please.
Julie, good to be with you. Well, the judge doesn't have to allow, but a lot of discretion is given to the defendant here. And we want to make sure he gets a fair trial, and he's going to be able to do this, I believe. And that's upsetting, of course, for the prosecution because he's a star witness. Then the question is, why would he do it? Perhaps it has something to do with his new lawyers who looked at the case and said, you know, you got a better shot here just denying everything. You have Jose Baez on the other side who's probably encouraging and hoping this would happen. This is why they delayed this for so long, in the hope that he would change his mind, and he did. Also, remember the death penalty in November of 2025 was taken off the table for Gardner and Fernandez, so maybe Tenon feels his leverage has shifted or he's less to lose by rolling the dice at trial. A lot of reasons. Also, there's always the snitch factor. Maybe he doesn't want to look like he's a snitch and be in Florida prison.
Right, Dave. Yeah, all great possibilities there. Ben Chu, tell us what you think the motivation could have been for this sudden change.
Good morning, Julie. I agree wholeheartedly with Dave. I think he's absolutely right. I think Judge Kite will allow Mr. Tenon to change his plea. I also am right. I also believe he's right about the likely motivations that his new counsel, probably thinks this is his best way to go. I don't think that anybody got to him. I think it's more just a simple matter of his new counsel thinking that this is the best way for his client to go rather than any outside pressure from the other defendants.
Sure. Should the state try to sweeten his deal somehow? Dave, what do you think? Do you think they're panicked with this?
No, and it's great to be on also with Ben. Thank you. I always love it when my co-panelist agrees with me. It's always better.
I only want the best of the best on this show, so that's why we invite you two on. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Julie. Well, you know, I do think the state has got enough on him. I mean, it's not helpful that he's getting cold feet, but you know, they got the financial trail. They've got the checks of $10,000 deposited into this guy, the hitman's account around the time of the murder. I mean, come on, right? They got the burner communications from the cell phones. They got the whole setup that was there, you know, the bait tire found in the road that was tied towards him, including the blue Ford F-150 that he drove, you know, so they really have a lot of stuff tied to him. Plus, why would he do this? He had no tie to the victim. What's his motivation here other than getting paid?
Oh, totally, Dave. As you said, you're exactly right. Investigators say that Fernandez wrote 3 checks, as you mentioned, totaling $10,000 to Tenon in the weeks after the murder. And the connection is that Henry Tenon was a tenant of Fernandez's. He was renting a home from him. So that's the connection. That's how he comes in. I have a clip for you. And Ben, I'd love to come to you on the other side. This is the moment. Let's go back in time when Jared Bridegan's ex was arrested.
Kids, can you at least bring the kids out to me?
Yeah, we'll have to talk to these officers inside, okay?
Marla, my neighbor, has temporary. I'm here, Shanna. I'm outside. Oh, they're gonna call you. Oh, yeah, probably. You want me to go get her shoes?
Oh, the moment when Shanna Gardner Fernandez was arrested. Okay, so Florida prosecutors believe that all of this stemmed from bad blood between her and Jared Bridegan, once a married couple, divorced, and that's what they say, this bad blood set this into motion, the bitter custody battle and whatnot. Ben, tell me, now that everything has kind of been turned upside down, how do you see this set of co-defendants in their respective positions playing out? Do you think we're going to see some kind of a united front with them? Do you think that they're going to start to really turn on each other, particularly the married couple, Mario and Shanna? I'm curious what you think about them, Ben.
Yeah, I can see a rift between the couple. And remember, I mean, this murder took place in the presence of the daughter. So the crime was heinous, particularly the circumstances were heinous. So people who are capable of this would certainly be capable of turning on each other in crunch time.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Ben. Wow, this is going to be a big hearing today. We're going to be covering this, and we'll have a big breakdown tomorrow morning here on Opening Statements. Ben Chu and Dave Ehrenberg, thank you both so much for the sharp insights. We'll see you soon. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
I heard a voice that said, he's got a gun.
And that's just like a voice in your head?
A voice in my head, yeah. I got cold chills from the tops of my hair all the way down to the toes of my feet. If you make an accusation and you tell somebody's got a gun, you know, they're going to think you're crazy. As I stood there for just a second, it just got louder. And so I just darted down the hallway.
A terrifying experience. We have some new video we want to show you of the alleged school shooter with a gun, and prosecutors say it's the same rifle that his dad bought him for Christmas.
In 2021, Dee Warner vanished without a trace.
Dale Warner. He's accused of murdering his wife, Dee.
Rumors of a troubled marriage spread throughout this small community.
She had contemplated divorce several times.
Now, after years of searching for Dee Warner,
her remains are found on the couple's property, sealed inside a welded shut storage tank.
we're still going to fight to the end to see that she gets her justice.
The hidden murder of Dee Warner. Live coverage today on Court TV.
And I was just doing my work like I was supposed to. And the smart board said lockdown, and everybody like ran into the corner. And the next thing you know, I just started hearing gunshots like crazy. And it was just like such a surreal moment. Like, it didn't feel real because you never think this would like happen.
We are just moments away from day number 2 of the murder trial of Father Colin Gray. So he's accused of second-degree murder. Monday, jurors heard emotional testimony from teachers, from first responders, and many other affected by the school shooting in Appalachia High School back in 2024 in Georgia. Here's a key look at the key moments from day 1.
This is not a case about holding parents accountable for what their children do. That's not what this case is about. This case is about this defendant and his actions. His actions in allowing a child that he has custody over access to a firearm and ammunition after being warned that that child was going to harm others. This is a case about his actions and the horrific consequences of them. At 10:21 a.m., that boy exits the bathroom he's been hiding in. He's now wearing yellow work gloves. He's carrying that Sig Sauer M400 AR style rifle concealed with a poster board. And he walks back down J Hall towards his second period class. He knocks on the door. A student in that class gets up, goes to the door to open it for him, but sees through the class at the last second him standing there with that rifle. She steps back from the door. At that exact moment, the teachers also reached the door because they've been looking for this boy, remember? and she sees through the glass him standing there outside their door with that Sig Sauer M400. She immediately presses a button on a lanyard that's around her neck that locks down the school. The boy then steps next door to the Ryan Edwards classroom, and he opens fire.
The evidence will show a teenager who is struggling mentally, a teenager who was deceptive, a teenager who hid his true intentions from everyone, from his family, from his counselor, from his siblings, and most especially from his father. The evidence will show a father who did not ignore his child. He did not abandon his child. He did not turn his back on his child. The evidence will show between Colin Gray and Colt Gray daily contact, daily effort, and active steps by Colin Gray to seek mental health intervention for his son through the school. The evidence will show that the most important facts, the planning of this shooting, the concealment of this shooting, and the timeline of this shooting were hidden by Colt Gray from his father. That's the difference between tragedy and criminal liability. Who is Colin Gray? He's a working father raising 3 kids by himself. He had responsibilities, he had a job, he had a family to keep afloat. He had 2 other kids besides Cole. He was involved. You'll see his text messages to his children. You'll see his text messages to Colt. This is not a parent who's turning his back on what's going on right in front of him.
At this point, we've been talking about missing assignments and different things because he'd only been there for 2 days, but he asked whether or not we'd ever had an active shooter drill before.
And what did you tell him?
Yeah, we actually had one last week, but he wasn't there for the drill.
When he asked you that, did that concern you?
I mean, you don't expect to hear that in the classroom. I mean, we hear about school shootings, but you don't think it's going to happen to you. So it was a little bit alarming.
And look at this. Very shocking piece of evidence also seen by the jury this moment. So this is footage we haven't previously seen in our coverage of this case, but it was introduced on day number 1. Look at this. That's Colt Gray, the teenager who allegedly carried out the massacre, and there he's carrying that big semi-automatic rifle onto his school bus. It's all wrapped up in poster board. You can just tell how heavy that thing is based on the way he's carrying it. This didn't raise eyebrows? Okay, Dad allegedly bought him this gun as a Christmas present after his kid had made threats about a school shooting before, has exhibited violent behavior, and was being medicated by his mother and father for his mental health difficulties. So let's talk about the gun. The fact that this semi-automatic rifle, police say the one used to do the killing was the one given him as a gift by Dad under those circumstances. I think the state of Georgia has already tipped the scales of justice against Colin Gray. How about you? Let's bring back in our legal eagles, Dave Ehrenberg and Ben Chu. Ben, I want to start with you, please. You teach trial advocacy. Go into professor mode for us. Tell us, is the state tipping the scales of justice so far with only 1 day in?
Julie, I try to be objective when I come onto your show because I respect you so much and your audience, but this case makes my blood boil and I really can't be into professorial mode. Any father who would buy his son an AR-style weapon, I would throw away the key. I'm just outraged as a father of 2 boys. We can all see ourselves in the position of the parents of those victims, and it's absolutely outrageous.
Yes, I'm with you 100%, Ben, 100%. Dave, let me go to you on this point. A case you know well in Florida that our courties at home know well. To even utter his name makes me sick, but the massacre carried out at Parkland by Nicholas Cruz, we know that this little Colin Gray, this little monster here in Georgia, in this case, apparently was worshiping Nikolas Cruz, even erected a shrine in his bedroom to him. And mom and dad were aware of the shrine, and yet he still gave him the gun. Dave, I'm sure this really hits home for you as well, especially being in Florida and having served there. Your thoughts? Dave, if you'll check, we're having trouble hearing you. Let's just make sure you're not muted, please. Okay, we're just having some difficulty with Dave's audio. It might have dropped out entirely. But to that point, you know, Dave's based in Florida, as our viewers at home know. Everyone's still reeling from Parkland. Ben, I know, you know, you're still reeling from it. I think we all are, from what we witnessed, the grief those parents went through. We know how compassionate you are, not just being a lawyer, also being a parent too, and the heartbreak those parents went through. Look at this. This is the shrine here. Ben, your thoughts on, I mean, just the lack of common sense from these parents. If any parent in America sees their kid with this, you would think there couldn't be any more clear alarm bells, could you?
No, and I think he might as well have pulled the trigger himself. I think it's tragic, yes, it's tragic for the loss, but I think it's enraging, and the father is every bit as culpable as the son, if not more.
Yes, Ben. And Dave, I understand we have your audio back. Same question to you, please. Look at this, the shrine to Nikolas Cruz. Your thoughts on Dad being aware of this and still allowing his child to have that rifle in his bedroom.
Julie, I agree with you and Ben. This is appalling. I mean, this kid was the devil child, Nikolas Cruz. I can't believe I even just said his name. And to worship him, and when the father in his defense said he didn't know, he tried his best. What do you mean you didn't know? Any kid who erects a shrine to an evil mass murderer, that's on you, because you knew about it and then you still bought him an AR-15 style weapon. And not only that, he also provided extra magazines. You know, there were extra loaded magazines for this son. It was found in his pockets after the shooting. Also, it tells you about his mindset and guns, that despite his mental health issues, the father kept providing him access to guns, and also even named him after a gun, Colt. I mean, it tells you that this guy was such a gun guy that didn't care about the facts in front of him. That's why I think that this is more than just a parent who just was ignorant. This is a guy who enabled his son with clear mental health issues. That's why I do think he's guilty of his crimes.
Yes, yes, Dave. And Dave, a follow-up for you. We all saw the prosecution of the Crumbly parents for what their kid did and how they enabled their kid to carry out that shooting. And so every parent in America was aware of that case. Like, you'd have to be living under a rock to not have the awareness of that. Dave, your thoughts of this behavior, especially in light of the climate we're living in?
You know, I was talking about the Crumbly case when my microphone went out, so I'm glad you brought that back up, because, you know, obviously there are parallels, and the fact that the Crumbly parents were found guilty sets the stage for another guilty verdict here, and I'm glad prosecutors are stepping up, because as Washington and state capitals often sleep, legislators are beholden to the gun lobby. You have prosecutors who are actually doing what they need to do and holding parents like this accountable. One more thing. This father was visited by the FBI specifically to warn him about online threats from his son. And what did he do after that? He bought him the gun after that.
He sure did. It makes my blood boil, like I know it does yours. We have to leave it there for just a few moments. We've got to hit a break. Thank you both for being on Opening Statements. Dave Ehrenberg, Ben Chu, you guys are the best. Friends at home, you're the best too.